Welcome to Going Fractional, the podcast for executives ready to rethink leadership, learn how to transition, thrive, and build freedom through fractional roles. Real strategies, bold insights, no fluff.
Well, welcome back to Going Fractional. Today I've got Keith Hubert on the episode, and Keith has a lot of experience kind of in the e-commerce space. And so as we talk about marketing today and Going Fractional, obviously we'll lean a little bit into kind of that background and that experience. This is actually the first time, Keith, that you and I have had an opportunity to talk. So I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about you. And I always like to start each episode just by kind of diving in with some, just some really rich content, rich value. And so, the name of the podcast is Going Fractional. The concept is helping others go fractional. And so I kind of want to start there, man. When did you decide to take that step into being more of a fractional marketer as opposed to, a formal CMO for a business?
Yeah. So I was actually at a business for about 10 years, e-commerce business. And we had for about 4 to 5 years, guy who was essentially doing what I do now. He was like a fractional type CMO, and I was leading the marketing team there. It was Crate Room was the business at the time, and I loved what he did. I liked the idea. I kind of was getting sick of, like, it's fun growing a business, but when you hit a certain level, like, there just starts becoming so many levels of, you have to make other people go through all those levels of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just those levels of, I don't know, everyone just having different opinions, I guess, is maybe what it was with a big business. Sure. And sorry, 1 second.
Yeah, you're good.
Was walking in.
Yeah. Beautiful, man.
Yeah. So this is my son, Eli.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. We'll I'm sure we'll chat family here in a second. My wife and I have 5 kiddos. And so part of the obviously of going fractional is the idea of being able to sort of be a little bit more present as a parent. So I love that.
Yes. Yeah. So anyways, to sum it up real quick, I got sick of the big business and I kind of did what he was doing and went and worked for him. He's Chase Sagum. So he's the one that owns Sagum organization. And so now get to do that for a lot of smaller businesses and some bigger, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, one thing that I love about kind of the concept of being able to go fractional is it allows you to sort of amplify, multiply your value, right? So if you're able to take one brand from 1 million to 25 million over the course of 10 years, what could you do if you were working with 6 to 10 brands and helping them kind of take that, that leap into some of those kind of 8-figure territories. So I think that's ultimately that's fantastic, man. All right. So obviously your son walked in. Tell me a little bit about your family. I think it's important that we always kind of humanize each other, in kind of the professional space. And I don't know enough about you to really kind of make this claim boldly, but you look like a young guy, right? Obviously your son there is still quite young. So tell me a little bit about your family.
Yeah. So my wife and I, we've been married about 7 years, and we waited a little while to have kids, and adopted our little son Eli about 2 years ago. He's coming up on 2 now, and so he's wild and fun. And so that's another big benefit I've loved is working from home. Is my wife also works; she's a teacher, and so we can she just works in the early mornings, and so we can kind of avoid having to drop him off at a daycare or anything, which is kind of nice. So he gets more of us.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, my wife is she's a stay-at-home mom. Used to be a photographer, super creative, but also had kind of that flexibility within her photography schedule to be able to just pour into the kids and invest that time in kind of our home life. And so, again, like we get caught up in kind of the hard work and the career and things along those lines. But at the end of the day, it is truly all about, it's about the people that you're doing it for and kind of that family unit and kind of, who's there when the day comes to a close and you walk in the door or walk out of the office into the home, man. So that's fantastic. Well, cool. Tell me a little bit about so far in your career, what's been kind of that mountaintop moment for you? I sometimes hesitate to use the term like biggest career accomplishment or biggest accomplishment, but just either that period of time or that individual, I guess, kind of accomplishment that you had reached. That was kind of my mountaintop, your mountaintop moment up to this point in your career.
Yeah. So I would say right now, so I have two clients that I've had for over 2 years. So I've been doing this for 2 years, and so they're like my longest clients. And I just had like I guess the metric I love to think about is they've consistently grown year over year. One definitely more dramatic than another, but it's still cool to see them having that year over year growth and to have that, like their businesses like have been drastically transformed, like from the hundreds of thousands to the millions. And so it's been kind of cool to see that happen and how it's changed their business. I've been able to help them, figure out the right softwares, the right employees in place. And it's been kind of cool to be there for it all. I think
Yeah.
it's kind of been, one of my most exciting, I guess, mountaintop metrics.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Now, when you're working with a brand, are you doing systems management, operation management, digitization, digital transformation or whatever? Are you doing more paid ads, SEO? Tell me a little bit about what you're deploying for a client that's like specifically this one that's seeing kind of that growth and success.
Yeah, yeah. So we like to. I mean, I like to lock them in for about with through ads because that's the easiest growth engine you can get in most e-commerce businesses, and then consult across the rest of the business. So as mostly in marketing, but there are occasions where they need help in operations or software, IT, or anything like that. And so I do help in those elements, but generally though, like it's in the like growth engine of paid ad spend.
Yeah, yeah, very cool, very cool. Do you guys tend to, or do you specifically tend to kind of like focus on an individual niche, or is it like no, as long as it's e-commerce, man, we can kind of step in and help change the game for them?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do like e-commerce businesses. Generally, I say this generally between like, 300 around probably 5 million.
Okay.
But there are some outliers there. Like I have a passion for starting my own business one day,
Mm,
e-commerce. And so I've worked with about six different startups, like just from like ground up. And then I do have one client that um is like far on the like bigger end and growing like crazy,
yeah,
but they just have a small inexperienced team, and it's kind of cool to work with them and help them, very much in the same place that I was at Create Room,
yeah.
and Chase Sagum stepped in. So it's kind of cool.
Love it, man. Love it.
Yeah.
And so you're not necessarily like when you're working with a business, they don't necessarily need to be like in healthcare or in clothing or in
No,
consumables or
no.
anything like that.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I have a passion for like the health foods like world. And so I do like the clients that are more like health conscious and, looking for more like organic ingredients or like, more like actual ingredients versus
Yeah.
made ingredients.
Yeah, yeah. So that's interesting. My wife is she's, the term that they use kind of in that, in her world is crunchy, right? So it's like
Yeah.
all organic and no dye and no
Yeah.
you're not allowed to breathe too loud near it, stuff like that. I, give her a little bit of a hard time. I was
Yeah.
born and raised on like Lunchables and McDonald's, right? So
Yeah.
it's interesting now that we're kind of taking that shift back to more healthy eating, healthy living, and that's sort of getting in a big way, I'd say, into the e-commerce space, right? Because some of
Yeah.
these products, it's hard to find them at like at a grocery store or at a supermarket or whatever. But a lot of them have big social media followings. A lot of them have the need to sell their product through e-commerce, and do the whole packaging distribution thing. And so I'm sure that you guys have some systems that you can kind of integrate into a brand like that as it's growing, kind of catch them in stride and help them ultimately scale their operation.
Yeah. 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 And make sure it's scaling right.
That's right. That's right. Very cool, man. All right, so tell me, what is the toughest hurdle you run into, just kind of in the fractional space? Is it related to scope? The capacity that you or the Sagem team have? Is it related to sales cycle? Is it related to predictable income and revenue? Are you doing any sort of biz dev, or is it mostly just fulfillment?
Yeah, so it's all the above. So the way Sagem functions is we're all 1099 contractors. And so we're legit sitting on our own island with our own clients. And if we bring in clients, we get a bigger share of the pie. And so
Nice.
there's more incentive. And so I've done a lot to, build my own sales cycle and, Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot. I mean, I've never been a salesman, but it's been fun learning that aspect of the business, and it's been
Yeah.
even fun, being this because I've been on the other end, and when you normally have a salesman pass it off to someone else, but
Yep.
it's fun to like be the salesman, make all the promises, and then do everything to make it happen.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because and not to not to turn the light on me at all, but I come from the opposite direction. I
Yeah,
historically was a salesperson for a marketing agency, and so now, and I kind of evolved more into a consultant, and
yeah,
could help kind of cast vision and cast opportunity. As I was going through the sales process with a prospect, right? So now I'm doing the selling, which I'm comfortable and used to, and then I'm
yeah,
actually doing the fulfillment on the back end, and I'm working with a couple of just really solid people to do some of the things that I'm not necessarily great at or efficient at, right?
yeah,
But it's interesting to kind of be doing it the reverse way, be like, oh, when I used to promise this in the sales cycle, that's what it actually feels like to do the fulfillment.
yeah,
I think it's honestly, like, I think it's a great practice for anybody to go into that's maybe worked for an agency, worked for even I don't know, like a consultancy or some type of business where they've primarily done the selling and not the fulfillment, or
yeah,
vice versa, done fulfillment but not the selling, and kind of see the other end of the spectrum there. It's been very interesting, cool, at times a little nerve wracking,
yeah,
the whole
yeah, for
nine.
sure.
So that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so tell me a little bit about. You said you built kind of a system out, and you're doing some biz dev, you're doing some some selling and some lead generation on your own. Tell me a little bit about what you've seen in that regard, where you've seen the most opportunity, the most success doing that, and then realistically, what seems to be kind of the easiest area to kind of gain some traction, gain some momentum, primarily for the purposes of anybody who might be listening or engaging with this content that is kind of thinking through it and kind of being like, well, where would I get my leads from? Where would I get my my name out there to? Tell me a little bit about where you've seen some success with that.
Yeah, yeah. So I'd say like the number one has been LinkedIn, like just networking through LinkedIn.
Yeah,
And by doing that, I think the posting is just reminding everyone that follows you that you're alive
that's right.
and what you do with that like little title.
That's
And
right.
so that's been like my biggest revenue driver just because you start meeting people, you network with people, you meet with them, and you just like I never say no to any opportunities like this, like since we met on LinkedIn or meeting other people, connecting with old friends. I do a lot of work for free for people often just to kind of help build some type of network.
Yeah,
And it's been fun. It's kind of cool. Like it's a cool social media that actually works, I feel like, rather than just trying to get likes and stuff. Like you're actually meeting and finding people. And the most of the people I end up like getting business from are people that are generally they don't like, comment or anything. They're just like ghosting around LinkedIn, not doing anything but reading everything. And
yeah.
so kind of cool. And I remember I did a metric once. I haven't done it for a minute and I've gotten more business since then, but for every post I did, it was equivalent of about $100 is what I made.
Oh
And
wow,
so yeah, so I was like, oh, I think I can take time to make $100 a day and do a
that's
LinkedIn.
right. That's right, man. Yeah, I'm a when it comes to social media, it is super fascinating to me, social media in general,
Yeah,
in so many different regards. But at the end of the day, like, there's so much, I think, value in not only like business value, marketing value, sales value, whatever you want to call it. But there's so much social value and social equity that you build with people when you do post and they can relate to what you're doing. Um,
yeah,
we have, I think I mentioned this to you before, but we have 5 kids, my wife and I do. And we had our youngest in December. And when I went on paternity leave from the agency I used to work for, I just basically I was like, you know what, I'm gonna lean into the social media thing. Like I've got time, I'm watching the
yeah,
kids. I'm gonna just put a bunch of dad content out there, just dad content, whatever, husband content.
yeah,
And it started to kind of grow, and I started to enjoy kind of the posting of it and the recording of it and things like that. And so I'm not I'm not getting tens of millions of views every time I post, but we've had a couple of reels between my wife and I kind of take off on more of like the kind of the relational social platforms, like Instagram and TikTok and YouTube or whatever. And I'm trying to kind of cross pollinate that a little bit with LinkedIn now. I've posted some of our successes on LinkedIn primarily just to kind of like highlight, hey, social media can be like incredibly powerful, but the biggest thing, to your point, the biggest thing that I think you got to lean into is the consistency of it, right?
Yeah.
You talk to a brand and they're like, well, we post on social and it doesn't really do anything for us. My first question is always, how much do you post? How frequently do you post? Well, we post twice a month. It's like, okay. Let's say you ate, like a healthy meal twice a month. How healthy do you think your body would be if you went, and lifted weights twice a month? How strong do you think you'd be? I always equate it back to that. And I do truly believe that, like, when you consistently, and I think this is honestly true across any marketing channel. I don't think it's exclusive to social. I think it's probably anything. But when you consistently do a marketing activity and you get better and better and better at it, and you meet more and more and more people, whether it's trade shows or podcasts or SEO or paid ads or, ultimately fill in the blank. I think when you get really good at those channels through consistency, ultimately you can see them bear fruit and you can see them, generate momentum and opportunity for your business. The reason I love social is because it's free. I can record myself being a buffoon in front of my wife and put a punchy caption on it and post it and honestly, like, get 50,000 views, right? And whether my purpose in doing that is to highlight, me as the entertainer, or if that's something that I can channel into a business like my marketing agency, there's opportunity for me to get some exposure without me having to pay per click or pay, pay $500 to go to a trade show or have a booth at a trade show or something along those lines. So I think social is, I just think it's interesting for that purpose. You said it yourself, right? Like, hey, if I make $100 every time I post, why don't I post as much as I can, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So very cool, man.
You never know when you're going to strike gold too. So that's why I think that's consistency so perfect. Because I think I heard on in a course once that if you never know when you're going to strike gold, and everyone has that potential, but it's just a matter of like keeping that consistency, testing new creatives, new ideas until finally you do strike something. That's
right. One thing that I tell people is, social media is a slot machine and everybody has unlimited quarters.
Yeah.
If you post 5 times a day, to your point exactly, eventually you're going to strike gold. Eventually you're going to have a reel that gets 1 million views or 10 million views, or, look, even 100,000 views, right? If you're a business and you're posting consistently, you're going to ultimately end up getting something that gains some traction. It's just a matter of like having the endurance to do it. And in fact, I bring that up primarily because one of the things that I offer is podcasting and then taking that podcast and doing social distribution for it. So
cool.
What I'll do with this video is I will actually turn this into a long format podcast, like we talked about. I'll post it on my channel, on my YouTube channel, and then I'm going to take clips from this episode and I'm going to post them on LinkedIn and Instagram and YouTube. But the reason I'm going to do that is because I want to post a video every single day, but I don't want to come up with the idea for a video every single day. I don't want to record every single day. So if I take this episode and I turn it into 50 clips, well, I can grab a clip and I can post it and put a little caption on it, with it only taking me a couple of minutes, as opposed, and then the time it takes to record it with you, as opposed to, getting up and trying to decide what TikTok dance I'm going to do, So that's one of the things that ultimately I do offer for that exact purpose is if you throw up 50 clips a month, just kind of having a conversation like this, one of them is likely to get a little bit of interest and visibility. So
yeah. I like that. That's cool.
All right, awesome. So question here, if a company needed about a 90-day turnaround, let's say a company comes to you and they're like, hey, listen, I've got 90 days. I'm going to invest in this marketing partnership for 90 days. And again, I'm saying this with the utmost, gentleness, because if somebody asked me, hey, can I turn my SEO or my podcast around, and can I turn this around in 90 days? I would always encourage them, like we just said, these things take time and they take consistency, right?
Yeah.
But in a perfect world, let's say budget potentially unlimited, somebody comes to you and they say, hey, I need to turn my business around in 90 days. Where do we start? Like, Keith, what would you say is ultimately the starting point that you would get in there and start to analyze maybe right away what changes they can make?
Yeah, yes. I mean, something that I keep running into with I work with a lot of business owners. They tend to not always know their costs. And you can run into a lot of trouble in 90 days if you're just spending and your products aren't making money because all of a sudden you're getting no profit and then the business owner looks at you like, what the heck? And it's
Right.
like, listen, this shouldn't have been my deal.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Right.
but like, so it's really, I mean, it's that 4 P's of marketing, right? Knowing the product well enough, including the costs, and that includes shipping, that includes weight, that includes everything, and even transaction fees. And a lot of owners miss a lot of it, or they have an idea and they sketched it out on a napkin kind of thing.
That's
And
right.
so always start there is making sure they know the cost, we know the cost, we know a break even return on ad spend, and we make sure we know like the target going forward. And then I would move into the two quickest ways to turn around a business: ads, just because you have a lot of control within Meta specifically. Google can sometimes take a little longer to get some traction, and TikTok doesn't work for every brand.
Mm.
But if you work on Meta, you most likely will work on TikTok. So I always push them towards Meta first and email. So those two working together, because if you don't have a good email strategy or automations or anything in place, you're going to waste ad money.
Yeah.
And if you have a good email strategy, you're going to increase your ROAS and become a lot more profitable through it as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would
Cool.
say those are the three things I would focus on.
Gotcha. Tell me a little bit about your email approach. One of the things that can be daunting, at least for me, it can be daunting, is the concept of building out a workflow that's lengthy, that's intuitive, that's thoughtful about different triggers and different mechanisms. Do you have a tool set that you like to use? Is it like, oh, it's as simple as building it all out in HubSpot, or it's all built out in this specific platform? Tell me a little bit about that approach that you take to email, because I find that super interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So I would say a lot of my clients are on Shopify, and so Klaviyo's Klaviyo's
Yep.
owned by Shopify, so well
Yep.
40% owned, and so they just have such a good deep integration. And even though they are raising in prices, they're still one of the lead email platforms out there. So I like them, and generally what I like to do is so I've through LinkedIn, ironically, I met a guy in Croatia, and he at the time was a single contractor just trying to, and I read a lot of his posts. He seemed really intelligent as far as email went, and we started working together, and since then he's built an agency around him. But we've been able to send him, he's helped a lot of my clients, just from building automations for cheaper than anywhere you can find in America. And then on top of that, he uses AI and all those good tools to help optimize emails.
Nice.
And he's just gotten better and better over time. And so that's kind of like primarily where I like look to make sure that, the welcome flow is like dialed in, at least like 5 to 6 emails, has an offer. If it doesn't have an offer, it's not end of the world, because there's some brands that try to be those high end, the ideal brand, right? You don't want to
Yeah.
have to get any discounts.
That's right.
But most brands should give a discount to start it up, because everyone's going to look for one even if they don't, and they'll find a better influencer discount if you don't give something right off the bat.
That's
So
right. That's right.
I always push for that. And then we like to end the email strategy on so if you're doing 10% all the way through, you end with a 15% from the founder, all text based, so it seems like really personal.
Nice.
And we found that works really well in driving revenue.
Yeah. Does Klaviyo have a SMS integration as well?
Yeah, yeah. So their SMS is actually cheaper. I was kind of surprised than a
Oh,
lot.
wow.
Since they've raised prices, I haven't reviewed the pricing again, so it might be more now. I don't know, but I like it all in one platform though, because that way you're not overlapping. You
Yeah.
can exclude people if they are doing SMS or not doing SMS.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Well, cool. Yeah. That's again, it's noteworthy mostly because like I said, when I've kicked around the idea of getting into like these long workflows, and maybe the issue is long, right? The term, I in my mind, I'm like, oh, you got to have 30 emails. They're like, you probably only need a handful. But
Yeah.
that's I think really valuable information for listeners to know. So, all right. So I know we're getting a little close on time here. So we talked a little bit about your toolkit. I'm going to ask, and you don't have to take too much time to answer this. Tell me a little bit about what guardrails you put in place to make sure that maybe a scope of work doesn't get too far out of the bounds of like what you like to offer as a fractional CMO. And maybe you're laughing because it's like, well, I don't really have that. Which is totally fine. Maybe it's like, no, man, I look, if it's in my repertoire, I'll offer it. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that is my problem, and I have to set those guardrails for myself because otherwise I realize I'm doing work for free for these clients.
Yep.
And that is something that I have a hard time with. I won't lie. Like my guardrails are very broad because I just believe, like, my thing is I'd like to keep a client for an extra year. And if building a landing page for them on their website or running some customer support stuff or whatever it is helps them stick around longer, I normally do that kind of thing, especially if they're struggling. But yeah, the scope creep is very real in a lot of what I do, and
that's right.
I should have more guardrails in place. But I've been trying to push more like an hourly rate for some things, but even then, I still have a hard time doing that. So
yeah, fair enough, man. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So tell the listeners then, tell people that may have tuned in here to the very end, a little bit how they can get in touch with you. What can they do to if they're looking to grow their e-commerce business and touch base with Keith Hubert here. What can they do to make that happen?
Yeah, so you can either reach me on Sagum, SAGUM.com. You just go through the contact us page, ask for me specifically. That works great. If you're looking for like an audit on your business, because I normally offer a free audit, you can go to it's fcmoaudit.com, and I can give you just a free audit on your ad strategy, your website design, and all that stuff. Because a lot of people there's a lot of money on the table on the website as well. So that's kind of I always like offering a free audit just to help people out at the very least.
Fantastic. Well, cool. Yeah. So do you, sometimes I know we can be a little apprehensive to throw our phone number out there, but what I'll try to do is I'll try to link any contact information that you might want me to share in kind of the description of the show. You'll be able to find this podcast on Apple, Spotify, and then some additional channels. And then obviously the video version will be live on YouTube. And then any final thoughts that you want the listeners to kind of have as we kind of wrap up here?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately in your business, the ones that I find win again and again are the ones that care about testing, like being willing to testing deals, testing different creatives, and like we talked earlier, being consistent with that testing. Because if you give up early once you find a winner, you're going to find social media only will last you a couple of weeks before you got to find something else that's new and a winner. So
that's right, man. That's right. And the other side of that too is that like, for us, it's beneficial, but testing can be a grind, right? And so working with somebody who's an expert at this, that's been spending a lot of time doing it, is always recommended. So somebody like Keith can help you grow your e-commerce business. And that's kind of as simple as it is. So you'll be able to contact him with some of the contact information we put in the show description. Keith, appreciate your time, man. Look forward to continuing the conversation and growing, and learn a little bit more about you and about your business as we go forward. So.
Yeah, sounds good. Appreciate it. Thanks, Scott.
Awesome. This has been Going Fractional. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Stay tuned. I'm sure you'll find some notes. And if you'd like any additional information from Keith, feel free to reach out. All right. Thanks.